Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon and I serve as your host. A while back we had Eddie Teduri. I almost called him Dr. Eddie Teduri because he is an incredible master of his field. What Eddie has been doing since then has really been going around the world, and we're going to talk about that. The hard part for me is how do I get it here in Ventura County? How do I get it out of Ecuador and spread what's going on? So Eddie, catch us up with what's happened with the Rhythmic Arts Project and what you're doing now, the training, where you've been.
Just recently, it's very exciting really. We did an international training. We do two trainings a year in Santa Barbara at UCP / Work Inc. And we had a fellow from Barcelona. We had Jerry Brown, who's a really famous drummer with Stevie Wonder from Stanley Clarke days, and he's been on the road with Diana Ross lately. His girlfriend lives in Bangkok. So this week, in fact, we had our first trap program. They came out and were trained, and we had our first trap class in Bangkok, Thailand. So, and then we have Gerard, who is in a little town outside of Barcelona. We have a couple of new classes in Prince Edward Island, in the Maritimes in Canada as a result of this training. The prior training, we had trained someone who is now teaching in Australia. So, and then we had guys from the States too. We've really upped the ante here in Ojai, and we're trying to bring it into Ventura, of course. And we're still in Goleta and in Santa Barbara. But these trainings have really got us further out in the world, you know. And in between that training, right before that, I was in Toronto, a new place called the Center for Dreams. I loved this place. And then I was back, I did that, then I went to Phoenix to a place called Valley Life, another unbelievably forward-thinking, just motivated, really engaged crowd of people serving folks with intellectual differences. Then I came back, and then I went back to Ecuador. And Ecuador it's always special. I mean, you spend a lot of time in South America and in Central America, so I know your heart is with me when I'm there. In fact, I hope we get to work together with the Fundación Reina de Quito, which is the latest thing in Ecuador for me. There's 150 families with children with Down syndrome, and the queen, Reina, the queens of Quito, each year the new queen is charged with one of her responsibilities is to help feed, educate, promote these 150 families of these children. So my friend Bernardo Benalcazar, he introduced me to the foundation, and I met the teachers and parents, and I worked with about 8 little children, like from 4 to 6, 7 years old. And it was a tear-filled day of joy and fun and just this display of compassion. It was, it's why we do this. It's why we do it. Now I heard just the other day that we have set dates for my going back to train the teachers. I believe it's in February. I'll be there 10 days in February. And I'll also work at El Triangulo and at the American International School where we're writing a book on early childhood education. So
the TRAP program, when you and I first met, I think it was a fundraiser in Carpinteria.
Yeah.
And we're always looking to raise money, and I know we're looking for more events here in Ventura County. And just trying to get a sense of it, you're surrounded by Edward James Olmos, Chris Pinnock from Chicago. You really have the top
Densmore.
Top musicians.
We do, but an easy population to fund. It just isn't. Most folks with intellectual differences are largely ignored. When you see a child who's 5 years old, everybody with Down syndrome or any any disability, our hearts go out to that child. We want to just hug and kiss them. They're so cute. But that same child, when that child is 35, a lot of us are going to just walk by and ignore that person because there's a fear, of the unknown, and it's not that anyone is malicious or really, wants to hurt anyone's feelings, but that happens. So this inclusion at an early age is really, really very important, and I'm sure Valerie Whitlock will expand on that. The funding, I think, if I were to just go out and show you 5-year-olds with Down syndrome, I might be able to fund that, but that's not the extent of our work. I work with people that are 80 years old that have intellectual differences. I just came from New York, where I worked with a bunch of folks from that have just gotten out of an institution, and they were really far away, and they were in their 40s and 50s, and they had been, in a very bad institution where they were probably abused, and and they're 40, 50 years old. Nobody wants to pay attention to them. For me, it's about creating that trust and being able to reach them. Valerie and I were talking earlier about how the TRAP program engages people. It's really difficult to try and say, well, this is what the TRAP program is, and give me 5 minutes. I can't really tell you. So, but some of the key things are engaging folks and creating that trust and being. If we teach reading, writing, arithmetic, social skills, patterning, sequencing, behavioral concepts. It's hard because people look at it and think, oh, it's a drum program, but it isn't. The drum is simply the tactile component of the learning. I wish people could really get closer to this population and understand the plight of funding it, because we need help.
Well, that's really part of what this show is about.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to educate people, because it's a lifelong thing. We spend a lot of time on not discriminating against people, really
Mm-hmm.
being an accepting society.
Mm-hmm.
UCP, you were talking about earlier, United Cerebral Palsy,
Right.
Doing an excellent job and providing different kind of camp experiences and surfing.
They're
We've had-
fantastic. They do art. They have an art gallery there. They make pottery. They go on excursions in the community. People have a really well-rounded, comprehensive program. And I think that's where TRAP fits the best, where it's an intricate piece of that puzzle.
Because when I first met you, I have a wide range of interests, and part of what I saw with TRAP is, for my English as a second language kids, is they really had no idea about, and in Spanish I'm terrible. I'm terrible with time, up, down, before, after, and sometimes I have to bring an interpreter to make sure I end up in the right train
So do
station. And so extending that program. Really getting it down into the younger kids, getting this new curriculum you're working on. Mm-hmm. So what I'm excited about is what we're going to talk about with our next guest, which is the inclusion part. That's really what you're talking about.
And she's a specialist, and she speaks very eloquently about the program. So
because
I'm looking forward to that.
When I see pictures from you from wherever, Quito, Toronto, I don't know who's having more joy there.
It's always me. It's always me. I love what I do.
Well, Eddie, we're going to be right back. We're going to get Valerie involved here, and then we're going to drag you back and talk a little bit more. So,
okay, great.
Ventura, get ready to be included. Here we go. Get Moving TV. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're here with Valerie Whitlock Tackett. Valerie, welcome. You got a chance to meet Eddie. I know your sister through the hospital, and she said, well, really the person that you need to meet is not me, but to meet my sister, who's an inclusion specialist. So, well, let's just start on the career side of life. How did you get started as an inclusion specialist? And then we'll see how that fits in with TRAP and what we're trying to do in Ventura County.
Well, actually, I started out as a general ed teacher, general education teacher. I have a background in behavioral psychology. And so I had always requested to have students with autism, say, mainstreamed in my class. Actually, they were full inclusion students. From that point, I got into that, having those students be included and helping them academically and supporting them socially as well. And then it moved into being a mentor for the district and supporting other teachers who were also needing support and help with students being included in their classroom. And then I ended up taking this job as an inclusion specialist.
Well, we're out in the schools as the Pediatric Diagnostic Center. We send pediatricians out to do exams. We send out mobile vans. And I think one of the worst sights in my life was in a school district, not Ventura Unified, where the children with autism and Down syndrome were behind a fence, and the normal kids were on the other side of the fence, and that's just, it disturbs me. So,
Right.
So how do you work through that? Because that's part of the mentality for people as well.
Yeah, well, when the student is fully included, that student is in the general ed classroom with their peers, and typically in their home school. So there's a lot of benefits of that. They learn social skills and they learn academics, maybe at a lower level, but alongside their typical peers. Oftentimes, and that's a lot where a lot of those students I'm supporting in the school district, academically, socially, but oftentimes some of our students have a difficult time in that setting, and so they may be put into a special day class. So another part of my job that I'm just now starting to get into is starting to increase inclusive opportunities for those students as well. And so we want to help their experience be more typical and have them integrate more into music and library and recess and times where they can be successful at first, and then they still have some times where they can work on those skills where they need a more, a smaller environment typically. So.
Well, when I think about inclusive opportunities, it's really an opportunity for a sixth grader to help out a first grader, and for us to really learn not to be afraid when we're in the at Vaughn's or wherever, that there's somebody different there. So,
Right.
so what are some things, and then we'll talk about how you see the Rhythmic Arts Project, how that can really help fit in. I think there's a strong educational background to the TRAP program, but that social part, how do you see this fitting into your inclusion programs?
Oh, just as you said, I think, well, this program particularly, TRAP, is one thing about that is the curricular materials are easy to use. Now, it's a methodology, and it's the materials that go along with the program can easily be taught to, say, a sixth grade student, and they could work with a younger student. But it could also work with typical peers, maybe same age peers as well, and increases those friendships and engagement as well. So, helps that student learn, a little bit easier. So in terms of the social part.
Yeah, I think that's really the key is when I have someone having difficulties in school, I'll have them study with somebody on a Thursday and go through everything, and they end up, the person who's teaching them certainly learns more, and I want to learn more about myself. It's not just about the color, it's about sharing. And when I watch the TRAP program and I see someone with autism who does not want to give up the drum, they have to learn how to give up the drum, how to let someone else do it. So there's some social things there.
Definitely. So they learn to share, and they learn to take turns, and they learn the academic skills as well. And they may learn friendships if they're being included, or if other kids are working with them, typical peers. But I just want to point out as well is that a lot of our typical peers learn a lot too. And kids that have disabilities, like you said, are oftentimes or may be viewed the kids behind the fence. And we don't want that. And we want them to notice, like what Eddie sees, the gifts that those kids can offer. And we want to show our typical population the gifts that those kids have to offer as well. And this TRAP program is another way of doing that. And to me, that is really exciting.
So just to kind of sum up a little bit, are there other music based programs for inclusion? What are some of the other inclusion programs? And then
Well,
we'll bring Eddie back and really talk about the educational impacts
There
as
are
well.
we have a music program in our district, and they're wonderful. And they do a lot of music. And a lot of our teachers, just to point out, they do a lot of this multisensory learning anyways in their class. What is unique to me about the TRAP program is that it brings in rhythm and that multisensory learning with the rhythm component, which engages children. And that engagement in learning, engagement is one of the most important things for a student to have, because they learn better, they retain information better, and they have more positive feelings about school. And we want to increase engagement any opportunity we can and make school like so much fun. And with that special population, it may be harder to engage them. So that's what excites me so much about this program, is that it takes that basic multisensory curriculum that we do have in place and adds something that is ultra exciting, and the rhythm component that I think will just increase learning so much, I'm hoping. And I remember when talking to you on the phone, I had asked you, and I don't really know all the benefits, but I know, with a lot of the positive learning and all the positive side, or the positive, I'm trying to think I don't know specifically what it does, but the development that it has on the brain. And so you could probably speak to that. But.
We'll talk a little bit with Eddie, but yeah, the brains, I don't think the brain will ever understand itself, but just how new neurons are made, how new neurotransmitters are made, how really utilizing all the tactile, the oral, the visual, as well as the social, we're building new brain here. Well, let me just end with back to the fundraising part, because we're going to keep on that. So you're writing a grant.
I did. I wrote a grant.
And it's just hard with the schools. I mean, teachers buy their own materials to bring to school.
And that's truly one of the biggest concerns. It's hard for schools, it's hard for teachers because they're so maxed out. We did write a grant, and we don't know if we've gotten it yet, but we are looking forward to finding new ways to help fundraise the program.
All right. Well, Valerie, thank you so much, and I look forward to more grant writing and hopefully some activities that teachers can attend and help raise funds, as well as all of Ventura. So Ventura, we're going to be right back, but time for you to get moving. Well, welcome back, Ventura. Eddie, we've just heard from Valerie. She sees the need for this, especially around the inclusion side. But also, there are some principles of education here. You spent time with someone down in Pasadena, I think, Seiko, learning about...
I spent 6 years with Seiko learning about... She's a developmental therapist, and she's brilliant, and she kind of got me started in this field, and I really didn't know anything at all about it, and I was very nervous, and she was an incredible, she still is, inspiration and a wealth of knowledge, She's not so much hands-on with us anymore, but when I need to know the answer to something, she's certainly in my arsenal, the combination of percussion, developmental therapy, and special education is really the key to the success of this program. The perceptual motor match, where you're actually seeing, and then the drum, if you don't look at the drum as the drum, but the tactile component of the learning curve, you're feeling the lesson. So you're seeing it, you're feeling it, you're hearing it, so it's auditory, and you combine it with speech. This same methodology works in mathematics. We have 3 drums, 1, 2, and 3. We have little cards, 1, 2, and 3. And we'll ask the student, especially the young ones, which is the highest number? 3. So they'll go 1, 2, 3 on the drum. Which is the lowest number? It's 1. What's the number in the middle? 2, right? So they're seeing it, they're touching it, they're hearing it, and they're speaking it. When we're differentiating left from right, which is very difficult for neurotypical children as well as kids with intellectual differences. So here, this again in South America, where we were going to write the book from the American International School and call it a preschool rhythmic arts project. After my last trip there, now we've decided to call it early childhood education, because it is touching those kids in the higher grades. And as Valerie was saying, you know, that is the inclusion factor. If you could have seen what happened at the American International School when we brought everyone up to 6th grade, and then we brought some kids from El Triangulo. We had El Triangulo, we had the preschool, neurotypical preschool kids, and then we had the kids from the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th grades working with the children who were typical children. And then we had them working with the developmentally disabled children. And it was like magic. It was like magic. I mean, and you know, the book where the curriculum is now, we could challenge the best of them in any of the lower grades. So some of those kids were really challenged and had to think, oh God, you know. So, and then they were able to help the younger kids. So it was a mesh of but just everyone was included. Everyone there belonged. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. That's what Valerie's trying to accomplish, that our kids belong, and they do.
Well, as a community, how can we support this? Because you've done your best to bring the cost of the program down. I think it's really, I always say, you know, and I'm a cheap date. I don't really get paid, you know, and the cost helps to support the headquarters, obviously, and everything we need to accomplish. But I mean, the beauty of this is, you don't need me to come in, especially when I'm working with teachers. Mm-hmm.
I work with the teachers, and after a day or two, they're going, okay, Eddie, that's it, you know.
And here's something new
And then they add to it. Yeah, I mean, they're brilliant. So, I mean, I'd never go in and I would never go and say, oh, I'm going to teach you how to teach. I wouldn't, you know, I'm in awe of them. So when I go, I say, listen, these are some really cool ideas. They work everywhere. They've been working for years. It's never failed. The only time the program never fails, it's the people who fail the program. You know, the students always learn, they always gain, they're always better for it. So working with teachers is a joy. I don't really have to work too hard. And like I said, we empower them. So the costs are that one initial cost, and you get the equipment. And we have very good equipment that's geared towards the application. So, you know, the curriculum and the drums and the percussion items, you own that. Then you certainly, at the training, once that's over, I'm usually dropping in your class to take notes to see what I can learn from you, because it's really what happens with them. And the kids just love it, you know, as much as the older folks do.
So as a community, what can we do to really support it?
Give me some money.
Well, we'll run on underneath us right now is how to get money to the Rhythmic Arts Project.
Yeah.
But
and you can earmark that specifically for Ventura County, for the Unified School District, for special ed. You can say, this is exactly where you could tell me what class, you know, and Valerie and I will work on that, and we'll find that class and those teachers, and we'll make it happen, you know. But we need X amount in each class and then we'll oversee it. We'll follow through.
We have a pretty building downtown, you know, where they're really trying to drive traffic down there. Yep. So we're going into a little bit of competition with what we do. We hit up the Optimist, the Kiwanis Club. We hit up Mike's Sub.
Sure.
So what are there any special kinds of things? I mean, you have a number of friends.
I spoke to Mr. Hartley the other day, and he owns the Watermark, and he's also got the bank building, that room there. And I talked to him about doing what we want to call trap jams. So Ventura is perfect for that because it's not far from LA. And, you know, Santa Barbara's a little bit, you know, all my friends are still in LA, most of them that I work with. I mean, I'm working with the cream of the crop in Santa Barbara with Randy Tico and with George Friedenthal and Maitland Ward, who lives here in Camarillo. I'm blessed to work with those guys. But, you know, I still have the majority of my musical friends are still in LA. They don't mind coming up here, so we're hopefully, I spoke to Mark about it, and hopefully we're going to have at least a couple of outings there at the club.
All right, Ventura, well, it's time for you to get ready for Trap Jams. And downtown Ventura help support Eddie and the local school district, so time to get moving.
You're a wizard, Harry.